Hello everyone, welcome back to our cooking chronicles. We apologize for the long break in transmission. It wasn't planned, but we're back now and we're just going to be bringing you more simple and delicious recipes. Today, as you can see, I think you should be able to guess what I'll be making today. But yeah, drum rolls. Yeah, Nigerian meat pies. We're just going to run quickly through the ingredients and then we'll get right into it. So we have wheat flour, plain flour, cold water, measuring cup, baking powder, minced beef, carrots, potatoes, red bell pepper for color, onions, egg, flour. Just there for the slurry. I have seasoning cubes, curry powder, onion and garlic powder, peppercorns, and then I have margarine and lard. So I'm going to explain why I'll be using the combination of these two for meat pies. Let's get right into it. All right guys, so in this bowl I have 3.5 cups of flour, of plain flour, and I'm just gonna go in with 1 level teaspoon of baking powder. All right, those are the dry ingredients we need. I'm just gonna toss it together. At this point, make sure your hands are washed and clean and dry. Okay, and then this is a personal preference, guys, so I like to use a combination of my margarine and lard. So lard is, if I'm not mistaken, the white rendered part of a pig. Yeah, white rendered fat from the pig. So you can do without it and use just your margarine, but I found that I have better pastry for my pies when I use a combination of the lard, and then flavor comes more from the margarine. You can just go ahead and use just margarine, or you can experiment and try the mixture. But altogether I'm going to use 280 grams of margarine or margarine to lard. So it's like a 60 to 40 ratio, 60 to 40 margarine to lard if you're doing that, or just 100% margarine if you prefer. Okay, so that is very cold. Cut it into cubes, and I'm just gonna go in with that so that I can work it into the flour. All right, so one thing I advise for short crust pastry is that you always use your hands to work the dough, so that way your dough is not overworked. I personally do not like to use a mixer for my short crust pastry dough, and that's my pie dough. Who knew that short crust pastry would be such a tongue twister? Try saying it 3 times. Anyway, so all I'm doing is just to work the margarine, lard into the flour just until it comes together and I don't have any big chunk in there. You can always use your food processor, but like you know, the channel is all about simple recipes using what you have at home, so I just always like to make it as simple as possible. You will notice that for this pie recipe we're not putting eggs, or the only reason we have eggs in the list of ingredients is for the egg wash, but we're not going to use eggs or milk for this particular recipe. So now this is what I need. I just need it to be able to form a dough if I put it together like so. All right, now I'm going to go in with 1/2 cup of very cold water. Notice that my margarine was very cold, and now very cold water, because that just, your pastry is going to thank you for it, trust me. If you don't want a doughy pastry, if you want a buttery crusty pastry, then follow these steps and you will thank me for it. All right, so I'm just gonna bring it all together. See, it's all coming together and it's easy. And once it forms, we just have to let it rest in the fridge for at least an hour. And while we're doing that, we'll make our pie filling and let it cool down before we bake. So basically 3 steps and you have your pie. It's easy, trust me. So you don't want to overwork your dough. This is just where you need it to be. And I'm gonna wrap in a cling film. Whew. That felt like cardio. I'm joking, it's easy. All right. Okay, so I'm just gonna have my dough wrapped in the cling film. This is what we have, so just make that. And wrap it up. I'm just gonna go in one more time. And we'll put it in. If you're doing an hour, usually if I don't have a lot of time, I will put it in the freezer so that it gets cool and it rests faster. Otherwise, you can keep it in your fridge overnight and you're still good. These the dough can actually keep in your freezer for a week, 2 weeks. Just bring it out and let it thaw, and you use it to make your pie. But yeah, we're just gonna keep this in the fridge for 1 hour and then we'll make our filling. All right guys, so while our dough is chilling in the freezer, we're going to go ahead and make the filling. Pot. Now this is the twist. I am not going to put in any oil because I'm going to get enough oil from the beef. So in the pot, I'm just going to brown my beef, minced meat. Usually you would see, I mean, it's if you prefer, if you want more oil, but you're gonna see why I'm not putting oil in here as we go. So to brown the beef, you just need to press it down like so, until it starts to bring out its own juice and oil. I mean, all this white stuff you're seeing in here is basically just the fat from the meat, and it's going to bring out its own oil, and it will be more than sufficient for what we need. The oil is more than enough to make our meat pie filling. So I'm pressing it continuously so that it doesn't, just congeal and come together like that. We need it to be all separated so that we can get a pretty delicious, I just said pretty, delicious looking filling. All right, let's go. See, it's starting to brown. That's what we want. And once everything is brown, we know that it's completely cooked, and then we can put in all we need to. It's on medium heat as usual. I used to think that meat pie was, I used to run away from making meat pie until about 3 years ago when I was visiting my sister. Hi TY, and this recipe is hers. I don't know, she's just perfected it, and all I had to do was just to add some fab dishes, finishing touches to it, personal finishing touches to it. This is 450 grams of minced meat, by the way. Yeah, the ingredients and the measurements will be in the description as usual. Yeah. Okay, getting to where we need it to be. So at this point, I'm very sure that it's not going to be all clumpy and going to stand. Texture sure it's going to be just the way we want it. Okay, so this took 5 minutes, and see, it's all brown, and we even have some oil coming up right now. Juice cooking in its own juice and everything. So now I'm gonna go in with 2 cubes of Knorr chicken seasoning, and then half teaspoon of curry, half teaspoon of garlic powder, and half teaspoon of onion powder. If you like your meat pie, if you want a kick in there, a bit of spice, you can put some pepper. I don't want it to be too spicy, so I'm just gonna put some black pepper in there. Or you can always go in with, I don't know, Cameroon pepper or dry pepper, as we call it in Nigeria. Yeah. Just gonna let the spices get incorporated and cook together. 1 teaspoon of salt. Stir. You can taste the salt. At this point, we'll just wait. Look at that. Look at all that oil coming up. And that's why I prefer to not brown my minced meat with oil, because it's going to produce its own oil. I'm going to go in now with onions and save the red pepper for later. That is a quarter of a cup of onions, or 1 small bowl. 3/4 of a cup of Irish potatoes, see, diced, and 1 cup of carrots, diced. So this is what you want to have. You don't want the veggies to be more than the meat. Just once again, because it's not vegetable pie either. Meat pie. 1 cup of water, and I'm going to let this cook together. Actually, let's make it 1.5 cups of water, just so the carrot and the potatoes can cook properly. And we're going to leave this to cook just until the veggies are soft, and then we'll be right back. Okay. Okay guys, so it's been cooking for 15 minutes on low heat, and I believe that the vegetables, the carrot and potatoes are soft by now. Yep. So I like to just press it down a bit, so we're not eating whole carrots. See, just until, if you press it down, if I take it into my hands and I press it, see, it presses easily, so you know it's ready to go. At this point now, I'm going to add in my red bell pepper. I have 1/4 of a cup there. Okay, so basically, I'm just going to do that. And I'm going to take a tablespoon of flour. You can use corn flour if you prefer, but I will use flour today. A tablespoon of flour, and I'm going to mix it into 1/2 cup of water to make a slurry, so that I can use it to thicken my filling. And once I thicken it, I'm going to turn it off and then just wait for it to cool down, basically. Okay guys, so I've mixed my 1 tablespoon of flour into 1/2 cup of water to make my slurry, and I'm just going to pour it in and mix it together, just so it cools down, it's going to thicken more, so don't be tempted to overdo the slurry thing. Yeah, you don't want to have something else in your hands. So I'm going to turn off the heat now and then leave it to cool completely. By the time it's completely cooled, our dough will be ready to receive the filling. All right, guys, we'll be back. All right, guys, we're back now. I have brought out our pie dough from the freezer, and our filling is well cooled and ready to be filled into our pie. So let's get right into it. I'm just gonna need my spoon to scoop the filling into the pie dough. I'm gonna use this to shape. We're just gonna play around with two shapes, the minis and the midis, and definitely I need my rolling pin and some flour for the surface. So let's get right into it. First thing I'm going to do is to put some flour on my rolling pin and on my work surface so that the pie dough doesn't stick to it and it's easier for me to work with. So I am going to divide this into two so that I can work smarter. See, it's cold now, so I'm just gonna get exactly what I need with this. I'm just gonna do a little bit of flattening with my hands first, and then I go. So I'll just, you know, move it around a bit and just keep flattening, ensuring that I'm not just pressing in the center and moving it around. Lift it, and yeah, I'll show you the thickness that is good enough, because you don't want your pie to be so what's it called now, you don't want too much dough and you don't want too little dough. So you see, I don't know how many inches this is, but yeah, all right, this is what I need. And now I'm gonna go ahead and just cut out from the 3 1/3 of a cup of flour that we worked with. I would usually get about 12 big, I mean that's 12 midi pies and about 24 to 30 minis. Take out the scraps, nothing goes to waste. I'm going to set these ones that I've cut aside and put the scraps together to cut out some more. When you're putting it together, try as much as you can not to overwork the dough. Okay, I don't want to overwork my dough, so I just brought it together until, just basically bring it together. You don't need it to be smooth. And then go in again with the rolling pin. To the thickness I want, and then I cut up one just to be able to cut one more before we start to add a bit of flour here. Alright, so I flattened this a bit more because I'm just going to use this directly now. So yeah, this is just fine. Now what I'm going to do is to put some flour again on my dough meat pie shaper, and then meat pie shaper, and then I'm gonna just fill it. 1 tablespoon is sufficient. Make sure it's well over the hair. and then we press. If it's the traditional way of making meat pies you want to do, see, and we have this beautiful shape, and it's, I'm just gonna go. I have already put some parchment paper over my baking tray, and I'm not just going to arrange them. All right, let's keep going. If you want to go ahead and do it the traditional way we knew how to, if you have something to cut it out, it's just basically fill it, put this over, and then use the fork to press it. But if you can lay your hands on the shaper, makes things easier, and you just work smarter and faster. And put this on here and feel and go. Some people don't like having so much filling in their pie, so just do you, whatever you like, go with it. 2, just gonna keep going. Just keep putting the scrapes aside because we're going to put that together to make another one. And another thing that you should notice, that if you overfill your pie dough, by the time you're baking, it's going to burst open basically because of, I don't know, temperature and all of that. So try not to overfill your pie so that it has space to just rise and do its thing in the oven. Okay, so look how pretty this looks. Now at this stage, while the oven is preheating, I'm just gonna make some just regular marks. If you like, you can do the usual fork holes. I am not pressing deeply such that I'm cutting it. I'm literally just making surface incisions so that if it needs some air or some space, rather than break the actual pie, it's just gonna find a way out in there. Yeah, I have whisked together 1 egg and I'm just going to egg wash it quickly. Yep, and be ready to bake. You really need to try this. I found this recipe to work for me all the time, and the fact that I don't need to use that many ingredients, no need for eggs, for milk. I have tried the recipe that calls for eggs and milk, and maybe for me the pastry just turns out being too doughy, chewy, rather than flaky and, you know, as a pie dough should be. So please try these and let me know. And I'm just gonna pop it in the oven. You can actually do this in your air fryer as well, 180 degrees for 15 minutes, and just the regular air fryer function, and it'll be all baked. So if you say fold your pies, you can freeze them for as long as you want, and then whenever you want to eat them, bring it out, let it thaw, and then pop in your air fryer or your oven, egg wash it and bake. All right, I'm just gonna pop it in the oven now and let it bake. Drum rolls. Yeah. Okay, so you need to be sure of the oven temperature so that you don't end up burning your pies. But yeah, this is what we have. This is the mince pie. And that's what you want to have. See how crusty the dough is, and then the filling is so juicy, and yeah. All right guys, so let me know if you tried this. Thank you.